Defining former Dallas Cowboys safety James Washington is indeed difficult. He was the epitome of brains and brawn. He brought leadership, he brought knowledge, and quite simply, he brought fear to opponents.
He was a hard-working player, highly intelligent. James was a highly intelligent player, physical. He was a guy that he would knock your block off if he had the opportunity.
Everything great players have, mentally, physically, emotionally, James was all of that. And he was smarter than everybody. He had like a little sixth sense. He had a little bit more.
When head coach Jimmy Johnson took over the Cowboys in 1989, he began rebuilding not just the team, but the culture. Just like he had done at the collegiate level while at the University of Miami. He wanted speed. He wanted toughness. He wanted attitude, especially on defense.
Remember the culture of Jimmy's championship teams at Miami. I think Jimmy, and kind of for reasons that are very understandable, thought, well, that worked there. Why won't it work here?
You know, I've always felt like if you've got a great defense, you can overcome weather. You can overcome maybe an offensive player having an off day. If you're great on defense, you're going to play well every single week.
To help facilitate his plan, Johnson turned to the relatively new avenue of Plan B free agency to bring in potential players who perhaps hadn't been given a fair chance in their previous stops. Some of the moves, including signing James Washington in 1990, proved brilliant.
There were some things that James Washington probably didn't do exactly right, but he was a good player. So I was able to give him a little bit of a break at times. Had he been one of these guys that wasn't a good player, I'd have cut him in a heartbeat.
He had it at Miami, and to get guys like that was a big find to have a guy like James Washington back there.
James Washington, could make big plays. He was a talented safety. He was a little bit of an off-the-wall individual, but we enjoyed him. We had a few of those.
He gave me the whole sales pitch, the elevator pitch. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to find guys like you, and we're trying to build something here. He said in 2 years, we'll be playing in the Super Bowl.
Well, Jimmy Johnson was looking for playmakers. He was a playmaker. He was looking for guys with attitude. He had attitude. Really good football players who were smart, who made plays, who could make other people better, and who knew how to win. And James had all of that.
I wasn't even supposed to go to Dallas. I was supposed to go to the Raiders, to be honest with you.
And we were in a big conversation on where he's going to go play. And I played a part in talking him into coming over to Dallas, putting that whole team together. He and I getting back together and really, fulfilling our dream.
I had played with Ken Norton in college, and he was the signal caller for the front. I was the signal caller for the back, and for the UCLA Bruins. And the reason why I came to Dallas was to team up with him again. And the magic happened just like it happened in college.
The fact that Washington even got an opportunity to join the Cowboys, that he ever reached the NFL, or perhaps even played at the collegiate level, is truly amazing. Life growing up for James was, to say the least, difficult.
Everybody who knows me knows I'm a product of South Central. Matter of fact, South Central was probably high end. I'm from the city of Watts. My story is that the people that I've always loved always seem to leave. And it just continued to happen. My dad left when I was 2. State took me away from my mom when I was 4. I was awarded to the state, and then my grandparents came and got me when I was 6.
Surrounded by the temptations of the street, James grew up trying to avoid the dangers that literally lurked around every corner.
I ended up meeting a guy, Henry Washington, that made me believe and made me understand that that's not the way.
As a junior in high school, James fell under the tutelage of Henry Washington. Though not related, he became a father figure for James, showing a belief that the troubled youth could forge a better life for himself.
I started playing football for him and the impact that he started teaching me his values. He started teaching me respect, and he started teaching me what accountability was. He was a guy who stepped into my life and made a difference, like he did many others thereafter me. But if I didn't meet Henry Washington, we wouldn't be sitting here having this interview.
Immediately a star at Jordan High School in Los Angeles, James Washington would earn All-American honors as a senior, yet wasn't named his own team's MVP.
They brought a new coach in, and me and the new coach didn't get along. We're great friends now. Hank Johnson, wonderful person. But he had a philosophy, and I think his philosophy and my philosophy didn't work. Even though he was the head coach, it was my team. At least that's what I thought back then.
Although he had offers from college programs throughout the country, James graduated high school a semester early and enrolled at UCLA.
And you got to understand, I live in Los Angeles, and I had never been on that campus. I had never been to Westwood up until this. The first time that I've been to Westwood was on my recruiting trip.
But while the drive from Watts to UCLA was less than 45 minutes, the differences between the two seemed as wide as the nearby Pacific Ocean.
You know, I moved into the dorms, had my own space. I was like, wow, I ain't got to share nothing. It was better than juvie. I had 3 meals, I had food, you know what? And a whole bunch of beautiful women walking around on campus. And they was like, oh, you got to go to class. Ooh, didn't know that. I walked into the class. It's an English class. And I swear I sat in the class, I was in the back of the class, and they were just speaking proper English. And you gotta understand, I'm a kid from South Central, and I excused myself, went to the bathroom and started crying, and went to Coach Donahue's office. And I told him I made the wrong choice. I don't belong at UCLA.
Success in the classroom may have been hard to come by at first, but success on the football field was immediate. As a redshirt freshman in 1984, James finished 4th in the Pac-10 with 4 interceptions and set a Bruins freshman record with 119 tackles.
He came in the year before I did. You know, I was a year younger than he was. He redshirted. Then when I came in, he was a redshirt freshman, then I was a true freshman. Then we ended up all our years together.
Over their 4 years at UCLA together, Washington and Ken Norton Jr. would lead the Bruins to a bowl game in each season. That included James earning co-MVP honors in a win over Miami in the 1984 Fiesta Bowl and an upset victory over Iowa in the 1986 Rose Bowl.
We were two of the better players on the team, and we were really competitive with each other. We would always talk about who's going to lead the team in tackles, who's going to beat each other to the ball, who's going to say the best pregame speech, who's going to who's going to practice the hardest that day.
James finished his career at UCLA with 15 interceptions and 347 tackles, totals that still rank 3rd and 7th, respectively, in school history. And as far as his work in the classroom,
I graduated from UCLA before it was all over. I got my BA before I went to the NFL, ended up with a master's degree.
Although James Washington was originally projected to be a first-round pick coming out of UCLA in 1988, injuries suffered to the same knee in both his junior and senior years caused his draft stock to fall.
It was a lot of concern because I had got leg whipped my junior year and tore a ligament, and then came back my senior year and tore my posterior ligament. And I was projected to be in the 1st or 2nd round at that point in time, and all those dreams to go to the NFL was out. I was actually going to be a probation officer. I had moved on with my life. I had graduated from UCLA, so I'm way ahead of the game in life, you know. So I wasn't looking at it.
Any injury will set any player back, but he's the type of guy that an injury is not going to slow him down, especially with him living the dream. He's not even supposed to be here with the things that he was able to overcome in his upbringing out in the streets, and to be able to come to UCLA, play at a high level, get drafted, go to the pros, that's the dream. And he was able to live it.
Then on draft day, I was watching guys get drafted that couldn't even touch my jock back then. I was about to go to the movies on the second day or whatever the day it was. And the phone rang, and it was the Rams saying, hey, we're gonna draft you.
In his rookie year with his hometown team, James appeared in all 16 games for the Rams in a reserve role, finishing with 17 tackles and recording his first career interception on October 23, 1988 against the Seattle Seahawks.
He'll be the first player picked in April, is the way things are now. This is a free ball in the end zone, and it looks like the Rams got it back.
Unfortunately, James missed the final 7 games of the 1989 regular season due to a thigh injury, but stepped into the starting lineup in the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers and recorded 11 tackles, including 9 solo takedowns.
I ended up playing the playoffs that particular year, playing in the NFC Championship against the 49ers where we lost. But I got some real game experience. And then lo and behold, Reggie White had that settlement with the free agency, and Plan B was born, where that gave me birth to have me sitting right here.
After having spent his whole life living in the Los Angeles area, James was now headed to Texas.
A city boy like myself coming from Los Angeles, played at UCLA, drafted by the Rams, so I had not left home until I got to Dallas, and then I really learned what football was about.
Almost immediately, and quite literally, he made an impact with the Cowboys, which earned him a unique nickname that perhaps harkened back to his days growing up in Watts.
I think it was during training camp, and I'm not sure which one it was, he earned the nickname as Drive-By because he would hit anything that was within his grasp.
Yeah, we call him drive-by because you never knew what was going to happen. He was going to get you if you weren't looking, or even if you were looking. That's the kind of player he was. He was a tough kid, and he played tough.
As legend has it, James once hit Hall of Famer Jerry Rice so hard that the receiver's gum stuck to Washington's jersey. And James was also quoted as saying, "Why go to a chiropractor? I'll adjust your spine for free."
That was the kind of guy that they were looking for, so Washington gave him a physical presence back there for sure.
Darren Woodson man, why wouldn't you just go for the interception? I mean, that's not what excites me. What excites me is when somebody hits the ground and bounce up. They can do that now, but I'd probably be playing for free in this era right now.
Playing ball is something that, like we talked about, what we always felt we did best. The whole Dallas system allowed us to run and hit and really have fun playing ball.
We were doing some things with our secondary that the rest of the league hadn't seen before. We played years later they called it the Tampa 2, but we brought in cover 2, and it's an inverted cover 2. We had a defensive coverage that other teams really couldn't handle. And so that's one reason we were so good defensively.
We played a different kind of safety back then. We was only 10 yards deep, so we was part of the front. I mean, it was really, you had your front linebackers, but then you had 2 safeties that were standing 10 yards deep, filling the gaps and playing the run. And the whole point is that we stopped the run, contained the pass. And that was our philosophy.
I think the competition and the fact that we really pushed each other, and we were young and all we cared about was winning and competing and pushing each other to the highest limit and winning it all at any cost. I think all of us together had that same drive, which allowed us to put together a really, really good team.
Norton had a real presence, so I would say he was a defensive leader. But yeah, James had swagger.
That was the makeup of our guys. You know, we was all, you know, guys that was trying to find our way on a team that was trying to find its way.
Second and 3. This is Johnny Johnson, the impressive rookie. And Johnson, loose ball. Cowboys have sickened.
In 1990, his first season with the Cowboys, James Washington ranked third on the team with 70 tackles and earned NFC Defensive Player of the Week honors after recording 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery in a win over the Phoenix Cardinals on December 16th. He then came back the next year and finished second on the Cowboys with a career-high 113 tackles, helping Dallas return to the playoffs for the first time in 5 years.
Jimmy brought a lot of the college philosophy to the pro game. And I think I was talking to you about how the age, I think from 21 to probably 29, so we were still young. And the guys just wanted to win. You understand? They just truly just wanted to win.
The early part, like in 90, when they went from 1-15 to 7-9, it was a lot of new parts, a lot of young guys. Even 91, a lot of young guys. And Jimmy was sort of building to what took place in 92.
Yes, in 1992, it all came together. The Cowboys won the NFC East with a 13-3 record before eventually upsetting the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game to reach the Super Bowl, which would actually be played at the Rose Bowl in Los Angeles.
Even though I was playing at a high level, I've always been the guy in the shadows. But that particular journey coming back home, I was in the forefront in Los Angeles.
Or 92, when they went to the Super Bowl in LA, I mean, that was a big deal for him. He kind of went home, and he was a starter on a Super Bowl team, and they ended up winning. And, he was taking guys around LA. He goes, yeah, I'll show you around. I know where to go.
That was one of our biggest, moments, being able to get to the biggest game that we, in our profession, to be able to do it in our own town.
Ooh. Not only did we come back to LA, we practiced at UCLA. I had the same locker when I walked in. We practiced at the same field, and it was our home field at UCLA.
Our hotel we stayed in was right down the street in Santa Monica. We practiced right here at UCLA, so we're able to see a lot of our old friends and old coaches.
And I had to slap myself almost, and I said, man, you done played on this field how many times? You done made a play over there, over there, over there, over there. This ain't nothing new. Couldn't shake it. Couldn't shake it to the first hit. I had a tackle, and it was like everything was like, okay.
A close game in the early going would eventually turn into a 52-17 blowout victory for the Cowboys over the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 27. The Dallas defense finished with a record 9 turnovers in the game, the first coming thanks to an interception by James Washington. Afterwards, despite being a champion, James admits to having conflicted feelings.
And I was the most angriest person in the world. We just won the Super Bowl, right? Because I had the first interception in that particular Super Bowl to stop the bleeding from Buffalo. But unfortunately, we ended up having 8 more turnovers after that. So people forgot about the turnover that stopped the bleeding, right?
It kind of got lost because it was early, right? And then so much happened after that with all the other takeaways the Cowboys got in that game that almost got lost. They forget how well the Cowboys played defensively in that game with all the takeaways, and James was certainly a part of that.
We're celebrating after the game, blowout, setting a Super Bowl record of 9 turnovers. And Ken Norton looks at me like, what's wrong with you?
Well, he thinks he should be MVP of every game because he's that good. He understands. He has great confidence.
Man, I had to turn over to change the game, and ain't nobody care about me, right? self-pity, right? I said, but when we come back, they'll never forget me.
The next season, the Cowboys again tore through the NFC to reach the Super Bowl. But while James was no longer a starter on defense, he still made an impact, both in the secondary and on special teams.
Safeties have to do that, and he knew that. But it's another opportunity to get on the field. It's another opportunity to make a big play. You could really level a big hit on special teams. I think he liked doing that. And I think he very much understood the importance of special teams, and he liked having a significant role in it.
See, we had starting groups, and my job was to be a starter. I don't care if it was on special teams or when I came there. I don't care if it was special teams. I didn't care if it was defense. I ended up being a starter on defense, but I also wanted to be a starter on special teams.
When the Cowboys took the field for the start of Super Bowl 28, however, there was James lining up against Buffalo's three-receiver offensive attack.
I looked at that as a opportunity to put myself on the stage, and as I promised myself a year ago, if I ever get here again, they won't forget me.
They certainly wouldn't. His hit on Bills running back Thurman Thomas in the first quarter forced a fumble that Dallas recovered. That turnover would lead to a 24-yard Cowboys field goal. Not done yet. With the Cowboys trailing 13-6 in the third quarter, James scooped up a fumble himself and returned it 48 yards for a touchdown to tie the score.
Fumble recovery, just me zigzagging. It was like everything was in slow motion to give us 7 points.
In the fourth quarter, James then intercepted a pass that led to an eventual Emmitt Smith touchdown, which essentially sealed the victory and gave the Cowboys their second title in as many years. Indeed, while James had the game of a lifetime, Emmitt was awarded the MVP honor after spurring the offense with 132 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns.
And as it turned out, he was kind of the defensive savior in that Super Bowl, to the point if I had a vote, my vote would have been for James Washington for what he did in that game to turn it around after Buffalo got off to a really good start. I know Emmitt Smith ended up with the MVP, but to me, it was James Washington.
I think one of the great injustices that I've seen was James Washington not being the MVP of the Super Bowl in Atlanta against Buffalo.
Indeed, while James had the game of a lifetime, Emmitt was awarded the MVP honor after spurring the offense with 132 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns.
I truly believe my fraternity brother, Emmitt Smith, deserved to be the MVP, but I also believe that I deserve to be the MVP as well. But here again, I think because of my personality and all the things that I had antics prior to all that, probably blocked my blessings.
A lot of people thought he should have been the MVP of that Super Bowl. I mean, he did some really exceptional things in that game, and he was, and it showed. It helped us get back in the game because we were losing at halftime.
All games. I mean, whether anybody else gets the trophy, James is the type of player, he makes impact. Off the field, on the field, in any game, he's the type of player that's playing well all the time. So he's always going to be in the conversation.
To this day, people ask me that simple question: who was the MVP of Super Bowl 28? James Washington.
James would be back in the starting lineup in 1994 and would finish first on the team in interceptions with 5. His 78 tackles also ranking second. But that would be his last year in Dallas. He would spend one more season with Washington, totaling 56 tackles and 2 interceptions in 12 starts, before retiring prior to the 1996 season. After hanging up his cleats, Washington would go on to work in radio and for UCLA's Alumni Association, and today still serves as the president of the NFL Alumni Association's Southern California chapter. His greatest passion, though, continues to be his Shelter 37 Foundation, a nonprofit organization he first formed in 1993 that provides educational and training programs to underserved youth in the Los Angeles area.
Always has a great attitude, happy, always wants to help people. He's a great resource for younger players because he has such great experience and he has a certain understanding about how to teach.
Helping young kids, giving them second opportunities, job opportunities as well, job training. I go into communities and I work directly with goal setting and understanding. And the motto of Shelter 37 is, my life is not how you start, it's how you finish.